this is our goal for this week. Last week we did the building shell, and this week we're going to build all of these wacky partitions. So Jane, who has retired, she was the designer of this plan. So she was really going crazy with the angles, and that's cool. This is a great exercise at doing things at angles. So this is our goal. And one of the things that you want to notice here is that I've got, or she has filled in or pochade the exterior walls and the columns. And we're going to do the same. I started doing it after our last class, but I'll just review how to use the hatch tool to pochade walls. And I am also going to pochade these demising partitions. If you remember, the demising partition demises our space from another tenant space. And I'm going to pochade those as well. So why? When you are creating construction documents for a contractor to build out, let's say you designed this and the contractor needs drawings to build it out, they need to be able to identify existing partitions from new partitions that you're going to be putting in. And the way you do it is with poching. And a lot of times, well, most of the time, the existing walls and demising walls or any existing walls within your space that are going to stay where they are, you will pochade those black or dark gray. And that instantly tells the contractor, aha, that is an existing wall. The other thing that you may notice is that there's not a heck of a lot of dimensions on this, right? There's some here and there, but overall, not too many. So when you are doing construction documents, you really want to use as few dimensions as possible. And Jane, when she created this, certainly did do that. So how does the contractor know where the partitions go? Well, he or she will use the existing structure as a clue or a guide to locate those partitions. So if I just zoom in over here, this partition here aligns with the edge of this column. So that's where that contractor is going to put that partition. Similarly, this partition down here is going to align with the face of this column. And this angled wall or partition here is going to, the corner of it is going to align with the corner of this column. So as we go along through this, we're going to be aligning things with centers of or edges of columns or the centers of these piers over here. So that is how the contractor locates partitions, and we're going to locate them on our drawing in the same manner. So I'm going to put this on my second screen so that I can follow along and see what the heck I'm drawing here. And this is where we pretty much left off. I think I let you put the doors in here, etc. And then I went ahead and I pochade some of these columns. I didn't do all of them. I left these out here. So I'm just going to do that right now, just to remind you. I know we did some poching earlier, but I'm going to do some now. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that I am on my hatch layer. So the command isn't poche, the command is hatch. So it's on the hatch layer, but we call it in our industry, when you're filling in walls or filling in columns, we call that poching. All right, so I'll just go to my hatch tool right here. It's in the corner of my draw palette, and mine is set to solid because that's the last hatch that I used. But if you just click down here, and you can pull this out, and you can get all of these hatches. And I believe they're in alphabetical order. But these here are sort of the last ones I think that you use, that you have used previously. So I want to just make sure that I have solid selected, and then I'll just go over and I'll just left click it. AutoCAD will highlight the area, kind of preview it for me. And I don't like to post everything, because sometimes you miss and then you have to redo them all. But I'll do a couple columns, or I'll do a row of columns here, and then I'll just hit my space bar or enter, and now those walls are hatched, or not walls but columns are hatched. So I'm going to go here and I'll just do these walls as well here, and maybe I'll just do all these verticals. Oops. And by the way, notice this one up here is not highlighting. This one is not hatching over here. Let me just hit enter here to lock those in. But if I go back to hatch, this one is not highlighting. How come? Because part of that wall is off my screen. So I need to pull that entire wall onto my screen, and then I can hatch it. So if you ever have that problem, just make sure that everything that you want to hatch, that whole area is on your screen. And of course, you also need to have a closed area. All four sides of the wall need to touch. Otherwise it won't hatch. So I'm just going to quickly get these in here. All right, I think we're good. Okay, good. So we're ready to go. You know what? Right now I've named my file Project 10A Base Building Plan, and I'm just going to do a save as. I'm going to give it a new name here, and I will call this 10B, just to keep everything straight, and I'll call this Partition Plan. Okay, so just have a fresh, clean save on here. All right, so now let's think about, I already put this on a title block, the 18 by 24 title block here. I don't need these other tabs here, so I'm going to get rid of them. So I'll just right click on it and then delete. It gives me a warning here, and I'll just hit OK, and I can delete these. And I think actually I can select multiple tabs and then right click and delete. So if I want to delete multiple tabs at the same time, I can do that too. Don't have to, but I just wanted to show you that you can. All right, so now I've got model space, and I have one paper space tab here, 18 by 24 title block, and I'm going to rename this something meaningful to me, and I'm going to call this base plan, or base building plan. And I called it base building plan because I put in my title block base building plan over here. That's the only reason. So we're going to have two sheets here. Excuse me. We're going to have two sheets here. We're going to have this base building plan, which is going to show the contractor the empty space, the empty tenant space. And then we're going to have another tab that is going to show all of the new partitions. So I will duplicate this tab here. I'll just right click on it, move or copy, and then I will create a copy of it and move it to the end, and then hit OK. And now I have a base building plan 2 here. They're both identical. I'm going to click on base building plan 2, and before I forget, I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call this my partition plan. And while I'm at it, I'll change my title block, or my drawing title here, to partition plan, all in caps. We're always only dealing in caps. Okay, so I have a partition plan and I have a base building plan. Beautiful. All right, so now we're going to draw our partitions and we want them to appear on our partition plan. But we don't want them to appear on our base building plan. So that means that we're going to have a new layer because let me just go here. Let me just draw, let me just draw a little pretend wall here. Oops, I'm on my hatch layer here. So that's wrong. Let me go to my walls layer. And I'll just offset 5 inches here for a partition. So I have a partition and it's on my partition plan, lovely, but it's also on my base building plan. So we can't put our partitions on our walls layer. We have to create a new layer that we can put them on so that on our base building plan, we can freeze that partition plan, that partition layer. I can't speak. All right, let me go to model space here and let me go to my layer properties. And I've got a walls layer. I'm going to create a new walls layer and I'm going to call this walls dash partitions. And I want to be cognizant of the line weight. So I want the line weight of my partitions to be the same as my walls. And my walls are at 0.25 millimeters. So I'm going to go to my partitions here and set those to 0.25. And maybe yours already are. When you created your layer, it may have put them at 0.25. And I want to change the color so that I want to make sure that I can distinguish between the walls and my partition. So I'm going to change this to this 132. This is a color that I often use for partitions, and actually a lot of architectural offices use 132, and I think it's partly because there is a package in AutoCAD called AutoCAD Architecture, and you know what, I'm going to show it to you on the last day of class so you can take a look at it, and it automatically creates walls on a partition layer that's that color 132. All right, so good. Close this, and I don't need that anymore. So let me delete that. And let me change to my walls partitions layer, make that current. And now we can get going. All right, so let me look over at my handout here and figure out where I'm going to. I think I'll start in this corner over here. So I don't know if you have the handout, you might want to glance at it as we're working here. But I have, well, let me get my settings going down here. First, I want my O snaps, and I want to add endpoint, midpoint, center, quad, intersection. I have insertion and perpendicular set, so that's fine. And we are going to use O tracking today, I think. So I will set, I know we will. So I will turn that on. And polar tracking as well, because we have that wonky 27-degree wall here. So if you don't have that 27 degrees, let me just go here. Just go to tracking settings and set a 27 degrees. So I have that set at 27 degrees. Alrighty. So my first wall is that I'm going to draw is this. There's a long partition that's running along here parallel with this wall here. So I'm going to start with that. And it is starting, let me just go onto my line tool here. It's starting right at this corner. So I'll just start there. And I'm looking for that polar tracking, that green line, and it's coming in right at that angle. and that angle is parallel with this angled wall over here. So I'm just going to come down, I don't know, some distance. It's about to here. We'll clean this up later. And I will offset 5 inches. All of our partitions are going to be 5 inches. And I've got my first wall. Okay, so the next wall is looks like it's at this window, right at the corner of the window jamb over here. So I'm going to just go to my line tool, and I'm going to come back here, and I'll just go perpendicular to this wall, and I'll offset that 5 inches. All right, and then we're going to box out this wall, or this column over here. The designer Jane didn't want to see this, so we're going to put some partitions around here. And the first one is 3'4" from this corner here. So I don't O tracking. You know, if I were to use the line tool and O track up on this angle, O tracking has problems with those angles. So I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to offset, which is perfectly fine. Another way to do it. So I'll just type O for offset, and I'm going to offset 3'4". And again, I'm just looking at the handout at the dimensions. And then there's another, this wall here is 5 feet. So I'll offset this up 5 feet. Offset 5 feet. And then I'll just do a little filleting here. You know, trimming. I'll do some trimming here. And then I'll just offset those partitions would be 5 inches. So they'll just come in. And then I like to clean up these intersections. It just looks more professional if you do that. So that looks pretty good. This doesn't look good though. So if I go to trim, if you remember, I can extend rather than trim. I can extend by holding Shift. And if I hold Shift and hover over this line, it extends it to the next line. It's a really nice tool. You used to have to go to extend, but now you can just use trim. And I love using it. I do it all the time. All right, that looks good. So now let's move around. Well, let's see. I've got, well, let's go this way. These look pretty regular down here. So I'm going to go in this direction because I've got a really wonky wall that's coming 16 foot 1 inch. Why not 16? But 16.1 is coming over, and then it's going to hit this wall here. So, and that partition is going to be right at the midpoint. The midpoint of the partition is going to be right at the midpoint of this pier right here. So I'm going to start with the middle, and I'm going to just draw a guideline. It's going to come out, I don't know, some distance. And then I will offset to get the full partition here. So our partitions are 5 inches. So I'm going to offset half of 5 inches, which is 2.5, up and down. And then I'll do some trimming here. I'll trim that, and I will extend that. And I no longer need that. So, all right, so now I have to O-track over 16.1, but O-track doesn't like using these wonky angles here. So what do I do? Well, I'm going to draw a little guideline here, and it's going to be perpendicular to this wall. So it's going to come out just like that. And then I will just offset it 16 foot 1 inch. And that, wow, I drew that almost perfectly, didn't I? And that is going to be the outside face of our partition. So if I go to the trim tool and hit my shift key to extend, that'll extend that right to there. And then I can offset 5 inches. And then we can fill it. Voila. I'll just get rid of this. So tonight, I'm not gonna, I may do 1 or 2 doors, but for the, I think you all know how to do doors by this point. So I'm not gonna concentrate too much on the doors. I want to get the wall geometry set, at least in the tricky areas for you all. Because I just don't want, I want you to be able to do it easily. Okay, so now let me just pan over on the handout. So I have an open space here. I think this is going to be like a teleconferencing area here. And then I have 2 wonky offices here and here. And they are both on that 27-degree angle. And then in the corner, there's going to be a conference room. So I can do the same thing, right? I can draw a center line and offset, trim, extend, and all of that business. But I already have this partition drawn. So I'm going to just use the copy tool and I'm just going to copy this. And then it will be the wrong length, but at least we'll have the partition set for us. So I'll use the midpoint of the partition or the midpoint of that pier as my base point. And then I'll just copy it there. Wait a minute. Let's see. Yep. And then copy it here and copy it here. So good. At least we have those angled walls there. Alrighty. So now I've got a wall that's coming out 6 feet from this corner right here. So I'll just do the same trick that I did before. I'll just draw a line perpendicular to this wall here. Just make sure it's perpendicular. There we go. And then I'll just offset that. How much? 6 feet. Okay, so that'll mark the outside face of this wall here. So I'll just offset that 5 inches and I'll fillet this just so I don't get confused here. And then I can get rid of that guideline. Okay, good. And then this sort of just extends to there, or actually it just fillets. So I'll just fillet that. I think that looks right. Yeah. All right. So now I have another partition that's running here, and it's running from this corner of this column. So, okay. So I'll just start at that corner, go right. I want to go perpendicular. Sometimes there it is. And then I'll just offset 5 inches. And use my trim to extend. I'll extend that right there. And then clean up these intersections. Awesome. Okay, good. So let's turn the corner here. I've got, so this conference room here, this is an easy one. And then there is a weird shaped office down here. And we have a couple clues here. There's a wall that's coming out here, and that wall is 1 foot 8 inches from this corner right here, this inside corner where this demising partition and the column intersect. So here, because I'm using vertical and horizontal, I can O-track up. So I'm just going to use the line tool and go up 1 foot 8. There it is. And it goes over 11 feet. And then it starts to follow that angle, that same angle. and it goes to this corner. So this partition is going to come down here. And so what I did was I'm just hovering over here, coming down, and there. It's just snapped right on that that 27-degree angle and the vertical there. So I'll just click and then just go right up. So that's the nice thing about using O tracking. I can just hover over that corner and then it will find an inference where that intersection would be, that point right there, draw the line that long, and then I can go straight up. Or I could just draw the line some length and then draw this line down some length and then just use fillet. You could do it that way too. It would be perfectly fine. Either way is fine. So okay, so let me just make sure that I've got my wall thicknesses here, and I want to make sure I am offsetting in the right direction. And I'll do a little bit of cleanup filleting here. Okay, good. Then it looks like I have another wall coming out here. Oh boy. Right, it starts at this intersection here, and it's at that angle. So I want to be 90 degrees from this angle here. And it's coming out. I don't know where that's coming out. So I'm just going to draw that line there. And we'll figure it out. All right, so this wall here is 8'10" from this column. So again, here I can use O tracking. So I'll come down 8'10". I'll go straight across 11 feet, right? Yeah, 11 feet. And then I will go up on that weird angle and I'll just go perpendicular to there. Okay, good. So now let's draw our walls or wall thicknesses. And I just want to make sure I'm offsetting in the right direction for these. And this 8'10" looks like it's on this side. So this one looks like it offsets down. Yeah, I guess it does. Okay, so now let's do some filleting here. Oh, wait a minute. Something's wonky. You know what I think? I think I offset that one wrong. There, that looks more reasonable. Beautiful. And I can use trim here, hold shift to extend, and then clean up that intersection. All right. So there is another open area here, and this also is for teleconferencing as well. But you know what? Let me just well, okay, I guess I can come down here 1'10". Just like want to make sure that I'm getting this stuff in the right direction here. 1'10". Oops, 1'19", 1'10". And that comes out 10'9". And I think if I did everything right, this should go right to that intersection there of that column. Okay, so let's offset 5 inches. Fillet. And so let me move down here because I think this is probably This is the trickiest part, I think, of this whole project here. So let me start with this wall here. And this is making me crazy, so let me just extend that so that's nice and clean. Okay. So, okay, so I think there's like a storage room down here, and then there's another room up here, and there's a strange angled wall right in the middle of it. So, all right, go to my line tool, O-track up 10 feet. And then this wall is 11 foot 1 inches. And then it comes up some distance here. I'm not exactly sure how long this is. But what I do know is that, what? Let me bring this up here so we can look at it. What I do know is that this wall, this piece of wall here is 3 foot 2 inches long. Okay. So, and it's intersecting that piece of wall that I have here. But where is this 3 foot 2 wall on this wall? Like, how long is this piece of wall? Or how long is this piece of wall? I don't actually know. So how am I going to find this intersection? This intersection where these two walls intersect. So I know I have this wall and it's some length, but somewhere on that angled wall, this wall is going to intersect, and it's going to intersect exactly at 3 foot 2. Well, what I can do is, if I offset this line of this wall 3 foot 2 inches, so I'll have a guideline that's out here 3 foot 2. And where that guideline hits this angled wall, bam, that is where my 3 foot 2 wall is going to be. In theory, let's see if this works. Let me take this off. So here's my, let me just draw the thicknesses of these walls here. So if I offset 3 foot 2, oh, it's not coming quite to it. That's okay. Where these intersect, I can use trim and extend. That point right there, that intersection, that should be where this partition is. So let me just draw this and offset it 5 inches. And then fillet this just to clean this up. And let me get rid of this guideline and let's test. So let me go to measure here and check. And yes, sure enough, 3 foot 2 exactly. So sometimes you really got to get creative, and you have to use your noodle to, you just think about geometry and where these partitions are going to intersect. In this case, I did an offset to do it. All right. What else have I got going on here? I have this partition. There's a partition right here. So let me put that one in. There's a line. I'll just O-track up 2 foot 11. See, why not 3 feet? But okay. And then 11 foot 2. And then this will just go perpendicular, right? It'll just go right perpendicular to that wall. And then just offset 5 inches. And we're good. So, and then, okay. So over here, I've got a door, and then I've got glazing that goes the full length of this, of the rest of this wall. let me, you know what, I'll put this door in here. So I'll just draw a line perpendicular, offset 2 inches for a door frame, 3-foot door. This is a commercial building, so all of our doors are going to be 3 feet. I've got another door frame. And while I'm at it down here, we've got that window here, and let me just do the frame for that. And I'll just trim this out right here. Okay, so now all of this is going to be glazed, right? But we're going to have one mullion right here in the middle because this will just be too big of a piece of glass to be, wieldy. I mean, you could do it, but it's just going to be big and expensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw the glass running the full length. And because I'm not sure how to get the midpoint, but so I know that the midpoint of that mullion is going to be right at the midpoint of that glass line, right? So if I draw a line right at the midpoint, and you know what, I'll just extend it there. So that's at the center or midpoint of my glass. And now I can just offset because this is the center of my mullion, right? So our mullions are 2 inches. So half of 2 inches, I'll just offset up and down, and then I can get rid of that guideline that I drew and then just trim this. So now that mullion is right at the center of the of that window. So if I just bring in a door, I just hit Control-3 to bring my door palette or my this tool palettes in. I'm just going to bring this door in. And our doors are 3 feet. So let's change that to 3. Our wall thickness is not 6, it's 5. And I'll change the swing to 90 degrees. Good. And I want to put my doors on the door layer. So let me just select it. Right now it's on the partitions layer. So I'm just going to put it on doors. And then I'll just move it into place. Well, I need to rotate it too. I could have rotated it down there, so I'll just rotate it now. Just use that and just snap it right to that 27 degree or 297 and change the swing of this to inside. There we go. Good. So in a lot of times unofficially, when you have like a conference room and the full wall of that conference room is glass, this room is often called a fishbowl. It's really very common to call it a fishbowl because you're kind of like looking in and like all the little people inside in the room are like fish because the whole wall is glass. So just FYI, just if ever you hear that, because I was about to say, there we've got the glass for our fishbowl. And if I said that without explaining, you would have thought I was crazy. All right. So what else have we got? I've got a closet over here. And it's got, should I draw that closet? Oh, what the heck? Let's draw the closet. So I've got a wall here, offset 5 inches. And oh, I've got that door too. So I got to put this door in here. So let me I'm going to O-track over 2 inches. I'm going to come down, offset 36, which is 3 feet, offset 2. And then it looks like the wall here is 2'4" from here. So I'll just O-track over 2'4". And it looks like it comes down 3'1". So that's a pretty deep closet. And then it goes straight across. Good. And then I'll just offset 5 inches to get my wall thicknesses and do some trimming. Okay, so now we got 4 doors. Well, how big are the doors? Well, let's see. I just said that commonly doors are 3 feet. Sometimes for closets they're less, but let's see how big our closet is. So it's 12'7" wide. So if we have 4 3-foot doors, that gives us 12 feet, and that gives us 7 inches or 3.5 inches of jamb on either side. So let's just do that. So I'm going to draw a guideline right at the midpoint, right? I want the middle of my closet. And then I will offset half of 12 feet, which is 6 feet. So half of 12 feet that direction, half of 12 feet that direction. Erase this and do some trimming here. So sometimes closet doors have a door frame around them, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just drywall that's going around. If in your design, if whenever you're designing and you just want the drywall going around, then you would leave it just like this. But if you're going to put a casing, a wood casing or a frame around, then you want to show that. So they're showing it in the handout, so I'm going to show it here. Just 2 inches. There we go. So now we've got 4 doors. All right. So generally speaking, a door thickness like this door here is 1 3/4 inch. That's a normal solid core wood door or hollow metal door, 1 3/4 inch thick. But when we're doing closet doors, that door can get really heavy. And as you're sliding that closet and you've got your briefcase and a backpack and your coat and an extra pair of shoes, and you're all holding it and you're trying to slide the door and it's really heavy, right? So generally speaking, we make closet doors 1.5 inches thick rather than 1 3/4 inches. Just as a rule, for your memory banks, as a general rule of thumb, closet doors are 1.5 inches thick, whereas a regular door generally is 1 3/4 inches thick. So I'm just going to use my buddy, the rectangle tool here, and I'm going to make a door that is 3 feet long. So 3 feet, and then instead of hitting enter, I will hit tab. And the thickness of that door is, as I said, 1.5 inches. And you know what? While I'm at it, I'm going to just put it right on the doors layer. All right, so let me just move it into place. So all I got to do is pick a corner and align that corner with the midpoint of the door, or the door frame, excuse me. So there's my first leaf, door leaf. And then I'll just copy this. And this time I picked that corner. This time I'll pick this corner and I'll align it with that corner. And then I can pick this one and go back. But you know what I can also do is just pick both of them. Take this corner, copy it to there. And if we did everything right, this should go right to that door, to that door jamb. And it did. So there's our closet. Beautiful. All right. What else? I'm looking over at the right side. It's pretty much just all partitions over here, pretty straightforward. we've got a break room or lunch room down here, and that partition is going to come up perpendicular to that wall. This partition is going to be right at the midpoint of this pier. And so I'll do that one. It's going to come down here. And then a partition, half of a partition, because we're going to this is the center line of the partition. So we're going to offset half the thickness of a partition, offset 2.5 inches up and 2.5 inches down. And then I'll just fillet this. And I've got this little partition there. I use trim and then hold shift to extend. And then clean that intersection up. Now I'll tell you what I don't clean up is this. So when I have my exterior wall and my demising partitions, I leave that. I don't trim this here, but just amongst the partitions, that is what I would trim. Oh, this is awkward, but I'm going to leave it. That's just what was there, but I will trim out, because the partition doesn't actually go through the column, it butts up to the column. All right. Well, I'm going to there's a closet over here. I'm going to let you work that out. I'm going to let you work out the doors, but I wanted to show you the tricky parts, that like up here and this wonky zone over here. All right. So now let's look at our paper space sheets. So go to base building plan, and I do see my partitions here, and I don't want to see them. So what I'm going to do is freeze them in this viewport. So I will double click in the viewport, and now I'm in white model space. And then all I need to do is I can do it one of two ways. So I can either come down here and then come over here and click not freeze, but this button right here, freeze or thaw in current viewport. And if I click on it, all of those partitions disappear. The other way, let me undo that. The other way to do it, and this is the way that I generally do it, is I click on this little freeze button right here. It's this little parallelogram with a little snowflake. And then click. And what I do, what it's asking is the objects that I want to freeze. And I like doing this because I can do it with multiple objects at the same time. So I'll just click align, partition, and oh, it's the current layer. It's the current layer. So let me change that. Let me go to my regular walls there here. So because I don't want to freeze my current partition, so I'm going to click on freeze and then click on it. It's gone. And I got these doors here, and I will click on those and they are gone. So that looks good. So my first sheet is information for the contractor, telling him or her what the existing space looks like. Then my next sheet is the partition plan, and it'll have all of my new partitions, and we'll have my doors and all of that cool stuff. And then tomorrow or next week, we will do the ceiling plan. We'll do a reflected ceiling plan and show all of the lighting. So we'll do a ceiling/lighting plan, and that'll be the next sheet. And then the next sheet will be all of the furniture. So we'll be plopping in all of that stuff next time. Questions, issues, confusion? Oh, also, I would like you to show the dimensions on this plan. So those additional dimensions that are here, that are on the handout, you should show those because it's important. Those are the dimensions that the contractor is going to need in order to do the build out, the construction. So think about this for a sec. So if we normally put our dimensions on the dimensions layer, right? And these dimensions here are on the dimensions layer. And on our base building plan, these are on the dimensions layer. So if I draw my dimensions on the dimensions layer, are they going to appear here? Anyone want to venture a guess? Don't be shy. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, they will. Correct. And we don't want to see those dimensions, do we? So you are going to have to think ahead, and you're going to have to create a new layer for the partition dimensions. So just like we have a layer walls and then walls partitions, you should have a dimensions layer and then dimensions partitions so that you can dimension your partitions on the dimension partitions layer, and then you can freeze it in the base building plan. All right, so your goal for next week is to do this plan. Just like this, have it set up, sheet 2, and we will, please don't stack your dimensions like Jane did here. And we will carry on from there.